Hey, welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to go over a tool that I built called DNAC Sidekick. So the purpose of the tool is to work with Cisco's DNA Center. It's a very popular tool that Cisco has built, meant to kind of manage your network and provide intent-based networking. And this tool, it's a command line tool built using Python. So today I wanted to go over how to install it, and also go over the structure of the code to allow you to have a better understanding of kind of my thought process, and then hopefully want to contribute to the project. So starting off, this is the public GitHub repository, so you'll be able to check out the code here. There's a README that will go through the installation process, how to get started, and then just some basic usage. So we'll go through this README, at a very high level, and then we'll get into how to use the tool, and then end it with, kind of that code structure. So that way, if you are looking to contribute, you'll have kind of an idea of, my thought process through building the tool. So to first start off, this tool was built using two popular Python libraries, Click and the Rich library. So Click is a library that kind of provides the framework to build CLI applications. It's a very popular library. And then Rich is a very cool library. It allows you to really make terminal applications look nice, as far as printing to a terminal, any sort of output to a terminal. So, they paired very well as I build out the application, and hopefully you'll see that as we go through the usage. So to get started, simply pip install DNAC Sidekick, and we're actually going to do that here in a second. But before we dive over to the jump into the terminal, I wanted just to go over some basic getting started. So obviously, since it works with DNA Center, we will need to export some environment variables that help identify, specific settings and credentials for your DNA Center. So you'll see we have, there's 4 environment variables in total. So the DNA Center URL, the username, the password, and then a token. And so, obviously the username and password is what you use to log into DNA Center. The purpose of using environment variables is so that way you're not hard coding this into actually application code, and also your users have different permissions, and so obviously if you have different deployments and you wanted to use different users, that allows you to keep it very localized to that deployment. So let's go ahead and get started by installing DNAC Sidekick. So I'm actually going to switch over to a terminal here. And so let's go ahead and actually, before I get started, and this is more like getting started with Python here, but let's go ahead and create a Python virtual environment. And just to show you, I am running Python 3.9, actually 3.9.13. So we'll do Python venv, and venv, not to be confused, venv is a module, and then I just named the virtual environment venv as well. So I'll go ahead and create that here. I will activate the virtual environment. All right, so now we are in our virtual environment. We'll do a pip list. You'll see there's nothing installed really besides pip and setup tools. So we'll do pip install DNAC Sidekick. So now DNAC Sidekick has been installed in your local Python, or in your Python virtual environment. And the way you can verify that is if you do a pip list DNAC Sidekick. I'm sorry. We'll do a grep. So you can see here in red. Sorry, I forgot the grep. So DNAC Sidekick, and you can see 0.1.2 is installed, and that is actually a release. I just released it yesterday. So now if you do DNAC Sidekick, you now have a command line tool to interact with your DNA Center. But if you remember, going back to the Getting Started guide, we need to set some environment variables. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So we'll just do export, DNAC, and I have these kind of written on a side screen here. So if you're wondering, like, how does he remember that? That would be why. But if you follow through the instructions, it's the same thing. So, you have your URL, you have your username. It is user. And by the way, for this video, I am using the always on DNA Center provided by Cisco DevNet. So that is why, I don't mind putting the username password on screen here. So you'll see I have a URL, username, and password. And just to verify, we can do print the environment variables and grep on DNAC. You'll see that there's a DNAC token already here. This is old. So for those that don't know, so with REST APIs, a lot of them require a bearer token, and this token can expire. So with DNA Center, it expires. I forget the interval, but this is an old token I actually used to kind of prep for the video. So we'll actually create a new, generate a new token and assign it to that DNAC token environment variable. So let me go ahead and clear. So we'll do DNAC Sidekick, and just let's take a look at the available commands. So we have command runner, get, and login. And if we go here, you'll see that the next instruction after setting those 3 environment variables is to actually log in to DNA Center. And what that means is it will do an API call to generate a token and print that token to your screen. It's more or less kind of a helper function, and allow, without you having to actually go generate a token on your own. So we'll go ahead and DNAC Sidekick login. And so you can see tokens generated successfully, and then you'll just have to copy the token. So we'll copy that, and then we'll export it as an environment variable. And so now I kind of ruined the surprise, but we do have the DNAC token, and it is set to the new environment variable. And you can see, the new token value. So you'll see it starts with EYJ, and down here you'll see EYJ. So, all right, so we are now set with the different environment variables required to use the tool. So now, let's get to the fun part. We can actually use the tool. So as I mentioned, we are using the DNAC Always On Sandbox provided by Cisco DevNet. So we won't have a huge inventory, but I think it will be good enough kind of for this getting started video. So let's go ahead and do a DNAC Sidekick get. And you'll see we have a few commands here: health, inventory, and licenses. And so we'll do inventory first, just to see what we have, and devices. And by the way, what I'm doing to get these prompts, you can do -- help anywhere in the tool, or you can also just press enter, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm purposely pressing enter after every word, just so that way you can see the available commands. So now you see, get inventory devices, enter, and you'll see this is where the rich library really shines. And you'll see, this pretty printed table with the different colors. All this is provided by Rich. It's nothing, not much, manual work had to be done to produce this table. A lot of it was built using the Rich library. Well, all of it, all of it was. But you'll see the host name, device type, serial number, software version. And so now if we go back to get, we already checked the inventory, printed out the devices. So let's check out the health. And just as a reminder, these are all basically API endpoints that we can hit, all kind of abstracted for you to use through this CLI tool. So if we do get health, you'll see we can either get the health of clients or our devices. So client, we'll check clients first. I don't believe they have any connected clients. Right. Okay. So yeah, no clients connected. That makes sense though, because like I said, this is a sandbox environment. But let's check the health of our devices. I think this is really neat. So it shows the overall health score, some CPU utilization, and then the memory utilization. These are all rounded kind of to the tenths decimal place, but it gives you a quick snapshot of what your devices look like. A nice human readable format. All right. So now that we've checked the health and got our inventory, this is one of my favorite commands. This is something I actually added. This is one of my the latest commands that I've added, and it's actually getting the licenses. So for those that are familiar with Cisco, their recent kind of transition from traditional pack licensing to smart licensing, it's really caused a headache for some to kind of keep track of smart licensing, especially the DNA licensing, because it is a subscription-based licensing. And so what this does is it will actually gather, DNA Center helps with that by tracking all of that, all the subscription licensing. And so we're using the API endpoint that exposes that information and then printing it out into the terminal. So we'll do get licenses, and there we go. And so you'll see it will show you the license level. It will show you there's two different license levels, and I don't want to really get into it, but you'll see the network license level and the DNA license level. The DNA license level, like I said, is the subscription-based license level. And then the license validity will say whether the license is valid or not, the virtual account that it's assigned to, and then the device UDI, which is really a mix of the model and then the serial number. So I found that these were some key points or key data points that I thought would be very interesting for the engineer. So I think this is, like I said, one of my more favorite commands. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. So we already exhausted the DNAC Sidekick get commands, so we kind of went through all those. Let's take a look at the last one here, command runner. And for those that aren't familiar, command runner basically within DNA Center, allows you to run any show commands. I shouldn't say any. There are restrictions, but from DNA Center. So not from DNAC Sidekick, the tool, but DNA Center limits you to the show commands that you can run against your devices through DNA Center. So what DNAC Sidekick is doing is basically sending in a show command to run against your DNA center, your DNA inventory. And, I'll show you that here now. So if we do command runner, we have a couple options. We have device, which will be the host name of the device that you want to run the show command against. So currently we only are, I only have one device that you can run the show command against. In DNA Center, through the GUI, you can run it against multiple devices, run multiple show commands. But for right now, with the CLI tool, it's only one device, one command. But I'd like to expand on that in the future. So we have the device, and then we'll want to do, let me just double check. Yep, the option for command. The key with this is you'll have to make sure you're using quotes. The reason being is because it's multiple words with white space. So I just found it easier to just include quotes when you want to specify the command. So we'll do show. Let's just do show version here, and now it should be collecting the show version of the device we specified, which was Leaf 1. So, and you can see it looks like we just logged into the device and ran show version. So that is using the DNA Center Sidekick. And now we're going to take a look at how we can possibly contribute to the tool itself. And so I'll go over the structure of the code. I still need to write a contributing.md, which basically goes over, it's a very common file used to help developers contribute back to the project. So I still owe the community that, but I want to just go over, real quickly the code structure. So we have our test and then the application code. Our test literally tests all the different commands that we just went through, validates, hey, if I run this command, I expect, this in the output or this type of output. And so that's kind of, and I use PyTest. It's a common testing framework within Python. But let's dive into the application code. So you'll see I've tried organizing it to where we can scale this application as needed, and as DNA Center, the REST API grows and there's more endpoints. So I tried, like I said, we have device commands which relate to command runner. This actually might want to rename it, but for now it's device commands. Health, which obviously is those health endpoints, clients and devices. Inventory, self-explanatory, and then the licenses. So we kind of took everything that was listed under that git subcommand and broke them out into folders. And the reason being is, there might be additional commands we want to, subcommands to each of these. So maybe with licenses, maybe I want to add, for a specific license type, or I want to filter on a device. So, the idea is to be modular enough to where we can add these endpoints and be flexible enough to allow these, endpoints to grow. So let's just look at inventory. Let's just look at a simple one here. So there's a commands.py file within each of these folders, and you can see here, we have the endpoint devices. So we get inventory devices. And then, we kind of have the code that will actually make the API call and then collect the inventory. And then lastly, so as I mentioned, if you go back to the terminal here and I said, hey, there's not really much work that I did building these tables. This is all the code that was needed to build those nicely, printed tables. And this, like I said, uses the rich library and creates a rich table. And so super easy to do. Making the different colors and stuff literally is just an argument. So very easy to do. I really like the rich library. So that is really about it. If you're interested in contributing, highly recommend forking the project, opening a pull request that maybe identifies some sort of feature enhancement. If you're not really interested in coding, but you would like to kind of contribute to the tool, we have an issues tab that you can create an issue. I don't really have much behind any sort of template or anything like that yet. I really wanted to. I'm slowly learning. This is one of my first projects, open source projects that that I'm hoping to gain some traction. So I'm learning as we go. But please feel free to open up an issue if you find something, or if you want something added but you're not sure how to create it. Open an issue and we'll take a look at it. So that is it. And went a little longer than I wanted to, but I really wanted to go through each of the different commands available in the project itself. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at DevNetDan on Twitter. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can open up an issue. If you don't have Twitter and you're like, hey, I just want to talk about the project, just open up an issue. We can use it. We can use it as a, back and forth messaging. And so, yeah, that is about it. The rest of the README, like I said, highlights the different features we went through. There's some examples. So we went through all these different examples. And then lastly, there is a compatibility. Don't really call it a matrix. It's just basically all the different versions of DNA Center that we've validated that it works. And then I created this last section here called credits, because the first issue that we fixed just this week, the user right here, I don't want to botch the name, he basically brought it up as an issue and said, hey, I couldn't print all my inventory devices. Could this be fixed? Because I forget the number of devices he had, but basically there was a limit. And so we worked around it, but he created an issue, and I really appreciate that. So, like I said, his name doesn't pop up in the list of contributors because of there was no code contributed, but I did want to provide credit where credit's due. He made the tool better, and that goes for anyone that would like to make this tool better. Please, like I said, open up an issue if you're not sure how to fix it yourself, through coding or, creating a pull request. I'll definitely take a look at it. So, all right. So I'm going to quit babbling on now. Thank you again for tuning in to this video. And like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. Thank you and have a great day.